I am at the Tesla Supercharger Grand Rapids, and the Tesla Owners Club of Michigan is having a little technical session on brake cleaning and service. Let's check it out. This is Casey Loring, the Tesla Owners Club.
Before we get into the techie stuff, Casey organizes the premier Tesla event in the Midwest, in Michigan, right here in Muskegon. So if you haven't signed up, do it now.
And we got Justin James.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, we're doing a brake service and cleaning.
Cleaning and lubing clinic here.
So tell us how this all got started.
I guess it was kind of like Justin and I were at an EV meetup, probably one of the West Michigan EV group meetups, and I just kind of mentioned like, yeah, I'm a weirdo. I got winter tires, I got all seasons and summers. I've got 3 sets of wheels for my car. I'm always swapping them out, but I am a little bit embarrassed. Taking your brake calipers off and cleaning them is something I've never done before. And yeah, it's like maybe I was a little intimidated to try to just watch a YouTube video and do it myself.
But we always hear that EVs don't use brakes that much. So what's the deal? Why do you need to clean them?
You might not need to, but it's like, yeah, it turns out Tesla recommends annually, because of the cold climates and all the salt in the roads and stuff, that even though your brake pads aren't getting worn a lot, you're still getting a lot of corrosives and...
Yeah, you get salt, dirt, everything else that builds up. In the winter months, you're not using them nearly as much, and so everything just kind of grinds to a halt over time. You know, all the old lubricant starts to build up.
Yeah, and I can say anecdotally, I can vouch for that, because my 2015, when I took it in before a pre-sale check to Tesla, they're like, oh, your parking brake rotors are seized up.
Yeah.
So it's not because of use, so the pads were fine, but they were seized up just because there's grit and all kinds of, they never get moved, I guess.
Absolutely.
Or not very much.
Tesla's making it a lot easier now too. You know, with right to repair, there's been, I think, huge progress on that front, where service.tesla.com, you can sign up for a free annual membership, get all the repair stuff. So I brought PDFs of that as well, but anybody can do that and save those for performance, non-performance, Y, S. They also have in the service mode, if you know how to get into that in your Tesla, there's a burnishing setting, so you can actually burnish your caliper, your rotors rather, seasonally, without having to like slam on the brakes and like wear your tires. So there's a lot of things I think that are headed in the right direction to allowing owners to be able to do this on their own. It's just a little bit of, I learned from Tony over the years. Well,
that was the thing, right? It was like, hey, I can teach you how to do it. Come on over to my house, bring a 6-pack of beer, and we can take care of that for you. It's like, oh yeah, Tony would probably swing by too. And I'm like, huh.
So here we are. We got a tent.
Like, there's enough interest.
Maybe we can expand this a little bit, and obviously a great place to do it here is at the Superchargers. So
cool. So whose car is getting done first?
Well, so that was the thing.
Yours is up on the jack, was
brake performance. The performance brakes are a little bit different than the normals, so we're figuring we're going to show off the performance set of mine, and cool. I think Tony's going to do his, or Justin's going to do his, and
we'll pick the second one for non-performance brakes. Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool. Let's get into it.
If you work from home and you don't drive through the winter and nasty weather all the time, like honestly, you could probably get away with it every 2 years, easy. The biggest thing is that if you drive with these salty, dirty, grimy weather, yes, they're going to corrode up, and what happens is the brake pads actually stick in the caliper, and when you hit the brakes, they'll flex instead of move. So when they do that, you'll get a really mushy pedal. And at that point, you have to do it. If you don't do it then, you'll probably never get the pads out, and you had to replace the whole caliper.
It's almost like I had a Subi with the pins.
Yeah.
And it was the same way. If you didn't clean them,
they
move.
Yep. And one of the biggest reasons we're doing this is because of regenerative braking. Yeah. So much of the braking is taken up by just letting off the accelerator and going through the motors that the actual physical brakes, they never get used, nor do they get hot enough to burnish off that corrosion, right? Because traditional gas cars, they come to a stop. Even in the winter, they get up to several hundred degrees, and they burn all of that you know, salt water right off them, and all that stuff kind of just melts away.
I should stomp on my brakes every once in a while.
It's not a bad idea. Honestly, I used to tell people that too. Back when we used to have the low regenerative braking, which I think they're bringing back, I'm not 100% sure. I would tell people every now and then on a dry morning, put it in low regen and just go hammer that pedal like a deer stepped in front of you. Yeah. Be safe about it. Don't be an idiot, but like really get the brakes working. It's not going to wear your pads out. These things go forever in brake pads. But what that would do is heat it up and boil off some of that corrosion and whatnot, and prevent this from happening. So makes sense. So first thing first, floor jack, right? If you have the 19-inch wheels, you just need a little 90-degree pick, stick in, pull it out. If you have the arrows, they just pull right off. It's easy peasy. I will do everything by hand on the first one, and then I will show you with power tools the second one, okay? Because not everyone's gonna have an array of power tools. The pucks, you don't actually need them. I know there's been a lot of controversy whether or not you need pucks or not. We had a few, now that I don't work for Tesla, I can tell you, we had a few customers with aluminum pucks that put them into the battery pack. Ooh. And it was a $17,000 error. So don't do that. These holes are there for production, and that's actually what moves the car down the production line. That's why they're there. And actually, another crazy thing, you're actually lifting on the battery pack. Those are actually the battery pack rails. A lot of people are like, don't lift on the battery. You are lifting on the battery. So to actually replace the battery pack, you lift in a different spot. So those little holes that you see, that's right where you just put the nice flat pad. Make sure it's a flat jack. You know, I see where Casey over there, he's got more of a very small head jack. That's where like a puck would actually come in handy, because that jack is just got a very small head to it. So that's a situation where, yeah, a jack pad actually is kind of helpful. So they won't hurt, just use them correctly and don't put them in the wrong spot. We've also seen them embed into the back of a tire because people forget to take them out, and they have a little O-ring in them, and then you hit a bump on the highway and they come out and they go into your tire. So if you use them with caution.
So, but it does go where the hole is.
I missed that completely. You say the pucks with the little O-rings on them, those fall out?
So they get, so what happens is that people will forget to take them out, lower the jack, pull it out, hit a bump on the highway, and it goes into their back tire.
Gotcha.
I've seen that, and I've seen them put it in an incorrect spot and puncture the bottom shield of the battery.
Gotcha.
So S's, if you have air suspension, you do have to put your vehicle into a jack mode. 3s and Y's, obviously it's all coil spring. If you're doing this by hand, you should have loosened the lug nuts before you lifted it.
Okay.
I am not. This is the only part I am gonna do because I have power tools.
So the 3 you don't have to put in jack mode?
Nope, there's no jack mode for 3s and Y's because there's no air suspension. You only have to do that if there's an air suspension equipped on your S or your X.
Which it is.
Yep.
So
yep.
I loosened the lug nuts on mine while it was the tire is still touching the ground.
Yep.
What difference does that make then?
Oh, it rotates.
Yeah, if you try to use, if you try to.
It's okay. Now on the rears, actually you can jack it up because the caliper is clamped.
The park.
Because of parts.
So I got a question about the rears. I know I'm sorry jumping the gun, but the parking brake will engage, right? So is there a way to disassemble the sensor where it won't engage?
So you basically just put it in tow mode. So when you put it in tow mode, it releases both brake calipers in the back.
I'm just thinking about pinching the finger like doing something.
So it's good that you brought that up, because if you put the car in neutral, I believe, it only stays in neutral for 20 minutes before it reclamps. So you have to be careful about that.
Okay. I just noticed when I back out, I hear that sucker closing or something. Yeah. I can see it going south.
And if you haven't already, while he's working on that, if you go to service.tesla.com, you can create an account. You can use your same admin or everything that you've got set up for your regular Tesla account. But you can get a membership, and you can go through and see service procedures. So you'd go and you look at brakes, and then there's actually one specific, and I can show you the PDF for it though. You can get specific ones for the 3 and the Y, performance, non-performance brakes, and it'll recap a lot of this as well. And they actually do a really good job. They go into detail if you get into the situation, Carl, you kind of reference, like, I've had my S for 10 years, and they do get really corroded. They've got a little bit more detail on how to clean it out if they are corroded, or you get like pistons for the brake caliper stuck or something. So service.tesla.com. Yep. And you they have you sign up for a subscription. It's free, and it counts for the year. But there's a lot of other detail in there as well. But I would highly recommend that. They're pretty cool.
So while you got your tires off, this is an excellent time to do a quick tire inspection. Right here, these are called your wear bars. If you see those those 4 little cross pieces right there, those are at 3 millimeters. They're purposely risen up at 3 millimeters. If your tread is anywhere in the front, back, middle equal to those, it's time for new tires. Don't even.
How do you tell?
So it'll just be smooth. Do you see that? Do you see that little spot, that little bridge in there?
Yeah.
That's the tire wear indicator. Okay. Yeah. So if this tread right here is equal to that, if this looks like that and it's equal to that tread, exactly, then it's time for new tires. Another way you can use a tread depth indicator. Don't measure on that because it'll give you an incorrect reading.
Use a quarter.
Quarter or a dime.
Yep.
See if it hits.
So if you can see, we go by millimeters. So I'm at about 7 millimeter tread length here, so that's pretty good. These started with 9 new. I'm a pretty aggressive driver, so I'm not surprised that these are 2 millimeters down after about, I don't know, 8,000 miles. So that's how you do that.
Okay.
Just set your wheel aside, don't drop it. All right, at this point, here's your brake caliper. Just do a general inspection, make sure there's nothing hanging, loose, right? Look at your brake line, make sure there's no moisture or any indications of brake fluid coming out. If that's the case, stop, get it into service.
It's alright if it's water, but it doesn't. But you don't want.
Yeah,
to
if it's
yeah,
wet
it's
from being
wet,
just
yeah.
wet, that's fine. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Also, inspect your rotor surface. It should be. This is about what a worn rotor should look like. This top edge right there is that's a little bad, but it's nothing crazy. If it's pitted through or has it looks like rusty and nasty, that's when it's time to maybe resurface the rotor or get a new rotor. Depends on the mileage. Depends on different circumstances of how worn this is. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually turn the wheel just a little bit, just to kind of position the caliper out.
I see Tesla got smart and didn't use screws to hold the rotor on. They actually used a nut.
Yeah.
This thing right here.
Really?
They used to be screws because when the car's floating in the air in the auto plant, they rust, and then sometimes you got to drill them out. You got to use a special tool to get them out. And then Tesla uses actual bolt, so you can actually just put the socket on that, which is awesome.
All right, so the goal here is to get the brake pads out, right? So we want to clean the edges of the brake pads. So on all long range, short range, mid range, that's what this is, cars, this is the brake caliper you're going to get. So basically anything non-performance, right? Except Model Ys. Model Ys have a performance caliper that's essentially unpainted. So this is basically everything for 3s and for non-performance. So first we just got to knock these 4 pins. So you just need a hammer and a punch. And you just put a punch right there. Now, once you start getting it through to about this area, there's a small trick to getting this. Yep, so there's a spring. You're fighting this brake caliper spring right here. You're gonna kind of fight this a little bit, and that's okay. Because what you're gonna do is you're gonna eventually get it to this point right here, and then you can either push here and pull. Depends on how much it's gonna fight you. Yeah, because once you get the tension off the spring, it kind of just slides right out. And also, if you have to use excessive force to get this spring out or this pin out, just stop, because this can corrode up too. And if you start bending or breaking the caliper, I've seen this start to chip away. Then yeah, you need a brake caliper. So I'm gonna use a small pliers. There we go. So there's one pin. They're exactly the same, so there's no mixing these up, so don't worry about that. And see how this pin this slide just kind of flopped right over? So the next one's gonna come out real easy, because this is just...
That little trick you did at the end with the pliers has been one that I've used a lot of.
Okay.
I find with mine where you kind of put the pliers on the back side and then you can tap against the side of the pliers.
Yep.
Kind of get
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yep. Now at this point, the brake pads essentially just kind of slide out. Now, there is kind of you can kind of squeeze on these things a little bit. So what that does is you're actually pushing the pistons. There's 2 pistons right here, and you're pushing those in. So by doing that, you're just gonna free it up a little bit to get it out easier.
But the great thing is I've always done like
So I got a question. Can you
just slide right out.
There you go.
And then you don't have to.
So there's one brake pad. So what we're cleaning on these is this edge right here on the steel, to be very specific, not the friction material. The friction material is what's glued on. That's what wears off. This is what your friction material is. That's what goes right against your brake rotor.
And that doesn't get rusty?
This does not get rusty, because every time you apply the brakes, this slightly burnishes against this, right?
But not enough to do the road dip.
Well, it's designed to wear away.
Exactly. This is designed to wear away. So when they say, you have so and so millimeters of brake life left, it's this top area that wears down. So this is pretty new still. Like, I think they come with 10 millimeter new, and this looks like it's, I don't know, roughly 9 or so. So I know, right? Yeah. I also here I got a ruler too. Here. So yeah, I was looking at that 9.
Wow.
Nice.
So
Yeah. How many miles do you have?
57,000. And yeah, I've never changed these. So And this little guy right here, this is what's called a wear indicator. So what this little guy does is it's actually like designed to be like a musical thing that scratches against the rotor. So once you get down to about 3 millimeter, this scratches against the rotor, and you've probably heard it
squealing.
Yeah, you hear a car next to you in traffic doing it. It's because this.
And that's typically
going
your brakes
against
are
that.
bad.
You want to hear the screecher before the grinding.
Exactly. Because once this metal has scratched this rotor, it's pretty much done. If you're lucky, you can get away with machining this rotor, but likely you'll have to replace it. So now at this point, it is a smart idea to mark which, or just remember which brake pad goes to which side. Try not to mix them up. It's just a good practice. So there you go. There's the other one.
Well,
All
so
right.
you leave the caliper on, it comes off.
These you leave the caliper on. Performance ones, we have to take them off. Okay. So it's a different practice between the two. The fronts are actually surprisingly different.
How about with the older S?
The older S's, I can't remember. I'd have to look at it again. I think they come out like this, if I remember correctly.
Popped out too,
And I think the problem is with S's is these pins, they're thicker, and the part here would corrode very badly. Okay. So that was one of the problems, is that I would start to try to do this in the field, and I wouldn't be able to get these pins out, and then we would take it into the shop, they would try to use an air hammer to get out, and we'd usually break the caliper. So then it would, just to give you an idea, I remember when I was at Tesla, if we couldn't get the brake stuff out and we had to replace this, the rotor, everything, it was roughly $2,400.
Wow. Okay.
So it's not, this is not something that like, just ignore. This is definitely a service practice that we should be doing.
So then the standard, do they slide out, or do they have to pop them out?
Slide or pop what out? The pins?
Standard.
Oh, on the
standard. Do the brakes slide out?
They're just like this. Yep.
Just like that.
Yep.
Okay.
So any short range, mid range, and long range cars come with this.
Okay.
Only performance cars. See how his brake caliper looks so much different?
Yeah, I see that.
Only performance cars come with a bigger, different.
4 bolts.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's what's called a floating rotor system. So the rotor actually can move side to side on his, and the caliper is actually completely fixed. So it's a much different system on his. How they did that.
Cornering speeds.
Yeah. So the goal here is just to clean up these areas right here. There's a few different methods to doing this. So best thing to do is get these little things, these little wire brushes like this. You can get them, I think you can even get them Meyer, but any auto parts store is gonna have these. What you do is you just go in here and you just clean out the area where the pad slides, okay? So you see right there, so right where the pad slides, you just wanna get out any of the stuff that's right in that area.
Ooh, I have sewing machine.
Yep.
There you go.
If they're really bad, you can get a little attachment for a small drill or impact.
Oh, nice.
And you can stick these in there. Make sure you can get these on Amazon. And then just make sure that when you're doing this, just be careful.
At the bottom of it?
Yep, you're just trying to get the very corner where these brake pads slide, right?
Yep.
So where these brake pads slide, that metal to this caliper, that's what you're trying to clean up.
You ever put grease on them, or?
That's what we're gonna do next. So, clean those areas up, and then I just grab a rag.
That's when I put stuff in the ground there, so.
So just a little bit of brake cleaner. You can use brake cleaner, you can use any type of solvent really. Just be careful if you did paint your calipers. Mine are already chipping, so I don't really care about it. But this will take off paint pretty quick. So just go in there and just give it a nice little clean out of where these calipers slide.
Would it take base tape glue off?
Would it take what?
No, talking to him. The fountain pen geeks.
Would it take what off?
Base tape glue? Oh my god, it's a permanent blue ink from Noodlers.
Oh.
And it
I don't know. You have to try it.
stains everything.
Oh, really?
I mean,
this stuff will take auto clear off real
Yeah?
quick. This will take
Oh,
clear
yeah.
coat off, so
Yeah,
you gotta be real careful with that stuff. So once you're to this point, you want to clean up the pads. So the same method, you can either use a wire brush. Now these pads are painted, so you see how it's like a black paint that's basically right there. So sometimes you'll see it chipping off, and that's okay. So you just want to clean it up, so just make sure there's no corrosion on it. These are surprisingly clean for me not doing this in like 3 years. But sometimes you'll see the little black paint start to chip off. That's okay, don't worry about that. Another way, sandpaper and a flat surface, and you can just kind of give it a little clean up like that. You don't have to go crazy. Just get the corrosion off. That's all you're trying to do.
Now what does that do? Make them move easier?
Exactly. Yep. Because if you don't do this, that metal right there will corrode and lock into this caliper. So what these brake pads have to do, their job is to slide like this, okay? And without proper lubrication on these steel areas to the caliper, eventually they corrode up. And then the brake calipers, these two pistons, instead of sliding, it'll flex and it'll bend, okay? And once that starts bending, your brake pedal is gonna feel really squishy. Once it's to that point, it's almost too late.
Yeah, good eye. Thank you so much.
So, yeah, the goal is to just clean these up. Right.
It's fun to watch somebody else work. Isn't it?
And he's on his day off.
I know.
Yeah, really.
It's okay.
Thank you very much.
I think we need a GoFundMe.
Oh, but so yeah, once you're all done cleaning them up, just a little brake clean, alcohol, some sort of solvent, just wipe the excess off, okay? And when you're doing this, make sure that you don't have grease. This surface and this surface need to be really like clean and virgin. You don't want any grease or any type of solvents on this braking friction material. That can cause some serious noise and reduce braking efficiency and whatnot. So definitely be careful. If you do get any grease on this, wipe it off. You can even take a little bit of sandpaper. You can sand the surface a little bit to help get it off.
So what's the biggest problem people have with this?
They corrode up the brake
No, I mean with this procedure.
You mean like in just doing it?
Probably getting the pins out, maybe. If they're
Yeah,
all
getting the
corroded in
pins out
place?
can be a little bit of challenge. Can be a bit challenging. These came out relatively easy. Actually, easier than I expected them to come out for being the age that they are. But that one, you're gonna see the most challenging thing is actually physically getting the pads out. You seen that little wooden table I have? Yeah. That's because you have to set the caliper off of the rotor to do everything. So it's kind of it's just awkward. You're trying to like monkey around with this thing that's sitting there. Also getting the bolts off for that. Those are pretty tight bolts and they're behind here. So you'll see that in a little bit. But all right, now we're to the grease part. So this is the next stage of what you're doing here. So any type of high temperature silicone grease, you can get this at any auto parts store. You know, it doesn't always come in this shape. You can come in like a tube, or even like you can get little packets of it. I just have a big thing because I use this all the time. It should just be kind of clear, pasty grease. Make sure it's thick. Don't use WD-40. Don't use any type of liquid solvent. So the goal here is just to wipe it on just the steel, okay? Just right there, that's it. And that's all you need. That's it. And yeah, you just wipe it on that steel right there again. And that's it, okay? So see, I actually did get just a little bit right there, so it's a good practice just to wipe that off. I'm gonna grab a little bit of.
Tony, what about the back of the brake pads?
The back. So you can. It's kind of like a mixed opinion whether or not you should or shouldn't put it on there. You can. It won't hurt anything. Some people say it reduces a little bit of noise. So I'll show you what Justin's talking about. For some reason, I don't know how or why, but eventually, like this. See where the pistons touch this brake pad? So some people put a little bit of grease right there. It doesn't hurt. You can totally do it. So supposedly it helps reduce like harmonic noises between the brake pad and the caliper. So that's what I've heard. Doesn't hurt. If you want to put some on there, go for it.
So that just prevents this from sticking to the actual pistons.
And that too, exactly. Yep. So.
Because you want them to travel.
Exactly.
That was the secret sauce for me, is just knowing where exactly.
You know what? This was
yep.
I'm dyslexic,
right? Like,
I mean, my Subaru, I used to put it on the back side. Sometimes we take them off, like when we go put on race.
I think it's just the there you go.
Yeah, you just got to get it like just in the right spot. And you notice how this pad, notice how easy it slides now. Notice how easy this pad goes in and out. This is a good test of like you did it right, because that type of movement, now it's not going to move that way, it's moving in and out, but this just tells you that everything's going to be, nice and lubricated and work well, okay? So, at this point, grab your slide, or I'm sorry, put your other pad in, jumping the gun. that's it. Just put it in.
So really it is just these tops and bottoms.
That's it.
Nothing on the side.
That's all we're doing.
Any
Yeah,
contact.
and like Justin just showed up. I'll do it again on this one. If you want, you can where you see these pistons touching the end. You can put some here. This is optional. This is not mandatory. But typically that's not where they corrode up. But totally, if you want to do it, you can do it. It's never going to hurt anything. And also, I've heard that actually reduces braking noise. So it's up to you. So just got to be careful where you touch these things now.
You don't want any of those parts sticking.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want anything sticking.
Except for
Yeah.
the pads to the rotor, right?
It's the only thing you want sticking.
Are those disc brakes?
Yeah, these are disc brakes. Yep.
That's all we make.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to do drum brakes. Drum brakes are terrible.
Oh, I know, right?
Some cars have the disc, and then they have the like
the drums on the inside.
Yeah.
Oh, those are a nightmare.
I just changed a few there last week, and it was just.
They're like spring loaded on the inside, right?
They're spring loaded, and then what happens is that as they wear, it creates a lip on the inside. Okay, so trying to get this rotor off, you'll have to use a slide hammer. I've cracked rotors right in half with a slide hammer trying to get them off.
I used to tune into it, rub the rubber boot, and
try to like roll it back. Oh, sometimes it's so rusted. Oh.
Are there any EVs that utilize drum brakes?
You know, I think like the Chevy Spark does. I want to say the Chevy Spark, and I think the Smart Car does.
Okay.
I'm not. Don't quote me on
just
that.
rears,
but I think
or
I think it's just rears. Yeah, I haven't seen a front drum brake, and God, I don't even know. I was gonna say it's been forever. So
The Smart Car just had a hole in the floor. You stick your foot through.
Flintstones. Oh no!
I can't believe how well that thing survived the crash test.
I know. So at this point, just take your pins, take some emery cloth. The easiest thing to do is just kind of give them a nice little, clean up. You don't have to go nuts on these. Just make sure it's, cleaner than what it was before. You don't have to go like that's pretty good right there. Nice. That's the difference between, clean and not clean. And then just on this part right here, this is called the friction clip. Okay, just kind of leave it alone. Don't lubricate it, don't do anything. That's designed to kind of spring into the back of the caliper right there and hold it in, okay? So the challenging part now is you have to pound these this way. So you'll see how you do this in just a minute, but it can pose some challenging.
So if it can happen, it will happen. What happens when somebody put them in wrong, put the pins in backwards?
Oh yeah. I don't know if you can.
Because of that clip.
I've never tried. I was gonna say.
I work in the shop. I deal with machines.
I'm curious. You know what? You can't.
You cannot?
Nope. Yeah, there's a lip. So I just tested it right there. There's a lip, and it'll just stay loose. See? Okay. So they're different diameters because it has a raised shoulder on the inside of it.
Oh,
yep.
So it's radius.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've never tried that. So.
I always like that. Yeah, obvious.
Somebody's gonna ask stupid questions.
So at this point, just put the bottom pin back in. We caught a lot that day. You just slide it through. Make sure you're through the brake pad holes too, okay. And you'll see the tip of it right there, right? And then just grab your hammer and just slightly tap it in. That's it. And you'll notice how the tone changed right there. How it went from a high pitch to a low pitch. That's how you know you bottomed out. So with hammers, that's how you know. See how the tone completely changed? That's how you know. And you should have about, I don't know, 2 millimeters or so sticking out from the shoulder of that pointy part right there. And that's how you know you're in the right position, okay? So that's it. Now, this is your brake spring. First time I met Carl, he had one of these broken on his car because these things will corrode and break in half. So inspect these, give them a good bend, make sure there's no cracks on them. If these break or are missing, your brake system will make all sorts of crazy noise. It'll squeak, it'll rattle, so the goal is to get the pin through that spot and this spot, but it has to bend significantly to do so. And so that's, what you do is you can, you just push it in like that. And then what you do is, see how far I have to push this one to get it in like that? Yeah. So that's the challenging part of this. Now S's have a big hole, they have a much bigger clip and they have a hole in them. And you can use this tool and you can like go like this. Unfortunately, these don't have that and I wish they did. So take this again, push it in. And then what you do is you push. Whoops, you know what? That one may have bent on me. Hang on. There we go. See how now just make sure that's in its highest point, because now I can get this all the way in like that. So same thing, just tap, tap, tap. Because it's a cone shape, it's gonna pretty much find its home. And notice here the sound. Listen. Notice how it changed the tone quite a bit right there. That's how you know you bottomed out. Again, it's about 2 millimeters past the edge of the caliper, and that's it. You're done. At this point, just make sure everything's nice and square in there. Just make sure everything's tight. You're good to go. Now, as a forewarning, after you've done this on both sides, the pistons will be pushed in just a little bit. You're gonna have a kind of scary moment. You're gonna hit that brake pedal and it's gonna go probably to the floor, okay? So just don't freak out, pump the brake pedal a couple more times and it'll build up pressure again. The reason is because these pistons, they just need to come back in and squeeze that brake pad again.
Yeah, you've pushed the brake fluid out into the reservoir.
Exactly. Yep, and a very important note, when you have this thing apart, don't ever hit your brake pedal. Because what will happen is these will come out of your brake caliper and you're done. Then you're getting it towed to the service center to get a new caliper. Yeah, so that's that. If you want to take the rotor off, you take this 10 millimeter bolt off and the rotor should just come right off. That's the only caveat to getting the rotor off. So at this point, it's just a matter of putting the wheel back on and torquing stuff. Also, while you're in here, like I said, just do a general inspection, make sure there's nothing loose, broken, hanging, you know, make sure there's no clips missing, anything like that.
Never seen something mounted under the side of the hood before.
So,
I just got my CCS adapter. It just showed up. I probably will never use it.
Oh, it's great.
And to that end, what you're cleaning out there and everything, just this helps those fingers be more effective of actually like pushing that out, right? You want that to slide real easy.
Yeah, these are like 30.
Yep. So grab your brake cleaner.
Yeah, South Bend was number
Just hit these, take a wire brush, and just clean them up.
Sometimes it also varies by time of day.
These are surprisingly clean, actually. But that's it. That's what it should look like when it's done. Just grease-free,
So I missed the part
dry.
where you actually took it off. Where did these come up?
So these come off right here, and I'm gonna put this one back on actually. Okay. So this one goes right there, just like that, almost.
So it actually sticks in place.
Yeah, it uses those two little fingers
spring-loaded, or
to kind of stick. Yep, right on the caliper bracket, we call it, right there. Of course, this one's giving me a little bit of trouble. There we go, just like that. So this one, I'll just clean this one off quick. A little brake clean, wire brush, and then where you want to get your wire brush is right into there. That's why I like this little one that has this little teeny thing in there, and you can really get under that spring clip and clean out, because that's where you want to clean. It's that valley where the brake caliper or the brake pad rides. So that's it, nice and clean. Make sure nothing's broken. Make sure this little finger flexes good and doesn't break off. Make sure it's there and not missing. Also, another good thing to check, just kind of make sure there's not a bunch of stuff under these. Sometimes rust will actually build up underneath these. So this goes on just like this. Put the backside on first, then push down, and that's it. And like I was saying earlier, these are low friction brake systems. So see that finger right there? It's designed to push your brake pad out. So if you see, this goes in like that. Notice how it always wants to push back out? That's good. Now see how the bottom, it's kind of got a little friction down there. I haven't cleaned the pad off yet. So now the next step, just grab a little sandpaper or Scotch-Brite and just clean the whole bottom side of this thing. Get the edges especially, and just get all the brake residue, all that stuff off of both sides of these. And these are easy because you'll know real quick which side is which if you take both these pads out by accident. You notice the kind of witness mark, we call it. That's the witness mark right there, see? So it's like impossible to mix these up. So next up, get a little bit of the same high temp brake grease.
But there's only one pad on this.
Nope, there's two.
Oh, there's
I just haven't got to that one yet. And just same thing. Just put a little bit of grease on this. You don't go nuts. Make sure there's no grease or residue on the friction material.
Which I didn't do.
And then same thing. Put it in, and that's it. Notice how it slides top and bottom nice, and that's what you want. Okay. So same thing on the back. I'm just gonna grab this back pad like this. It was already kind of sticking out a little bit, and it just came right out. Now see how goobered up that is already? Yeah. So there's one that's kind of starting to get nasty. It's not super bad, but so you'll see a lot of stuff come off of this one. See all that's in there? Because it's the inner pad, it doesn't get as much stuff hitting it, so it's gonna build up more corrosion back here. So hit that. Yeah, right. So that's it. As soon as you start seeing the shiny brake brake paint there again. Yeah, that's kind of the goal on these. And then same thing. You want to take these out? They just pop out? Oh man, so Armando Diaz, one of our customers, he lives on a 2-mile dirt road. You want to know a fun story while I'm cleaning these out, because I already explained how to do this. The first time I met Armando Diaz, he had a rear-wheel drive 85 Model S, okay? His road is like a rutted two-track dirt road, straight up 2 miles long. It's up north in Newaygo. And he was complaining that a bunch of his ABS, traction control, regen lights turn on, the whole car freaks out. So I'm like, that's strange. So I go up there, okay? Mind you, it's a rear-wheel drive, okay? I go up there and I start driving it. I'm like, well, let me go drive the car. It's not showing any errors yet. Went and drive it. And I'm like, oh, I got about halfway down his driveway, all the lights turned on, regen disabled, all this craziness. I'm like, oh no, I'm like, this isn't good. I get to it's winter, mind you. I get to the street, I pull out and I hear the most horrific tire screeching noise. And I'm like, whoa, what, it's just, as I'm going down the road, and I'm like, oh my God, I get out, the front right wheel is completely packed with ice and snow. It's not even moving. That caused the ABS to turn on. It disabled the traction control. It disabled regen. It disabled everything. I had to sit there with a propane torch behind his wheel, literally ice melting his entire wheel loose again. That's all it was. One of the craziest fixes I've ever. I was like, Armando, you got to clean your car out every now and then.
I posted a video about that. Even I would drive 9 miles to work, and I would just take a rubber handle and bust all the snow in my wheel wells out. And I shot a video and posted it online. I was like, guys, this is what I got for 9 miles.
Yeah,
People just ignore it.
Yeah. Yeah, cars down dirt roads, man, they have short lives. I'll tell you what, the corrosion, the amount of dirt and corrosion that builds up in them is horrific.
My road here was fine.
Oh, really? Oh, that's good. Well.
I like yellow, so I always keep them.
Oh, okay.
I call it quarter.
See, Tony, this is why I don't ride on dirt.
Yeah.
As long as you wash it off, you're good.
Some dirt.
You know, allergies, right?
Let him go play. My daughter was like that. She had her son. She was like he was glass. I'm like, let the boy go play in the mud. Dad! I'm like, literally, like, leave him alone. It's just mud.
Anecdotally,
Shelter them, and the kid is always sick. I'm like, let him get in the dirt. Let him
get in the dirt.
Right in the back of the car.
I lost one like that.
Oh, yeah.
So see, I got a little bit on the friction material. I'm gonna wipe that off. So you gotta be careful. This grease will get everywhere. So what you wanna do now is grab another rag, grab a little brake clean, and just hit that spot, wipe it off. There you go.
We were able to continue on our trip. Hers is done.
Yeah, I used to try to see. Oh my God, that picture.
And there you go. Both pads fully lubricated, ready to go back in.
It makes a nice noise.
So at this point, you just undo the bungee strap holding it on, and you just swing this thing back down. Now that they're lubricated, they're kind of sticking out. So a tip is to kind of tighten them in, and then you kind of just wiggle that brake caliper back over them like that. And there you go. Now, I should have mentioned, while this is up, check this brake slide right here, and this should move. Okay, if this doesn't move nice and free, that will cause a problem. It will cause very uneven wear because this caliper has to slide to create even wear in this. And also check this. You see how this slides back and forth? So those should slide very freely back and forth. If they don't, then what you have to do is pull it out, clean it up, and grease it. It's pretty rare. I've only had to do that like once ever on a Tesla, but as they age, we're probably going to see that happen more and more. So
there's no roller bolt that holds the roller on that one, or is it just take it out?
So there's only, this is it right here. So this
I'm talking about the rotor.
Oh, the rotor bolt. Yeah. So on the rears, no, I don't think there is actually.
So it's just friction.
Either that or you lost it.
Either that or it came off, yeah. Set it to the torque. It's 175 Newton meters or 129 pound-feet of torque. You can use any type of torque wrench, doesn't really matter. This is a fancy one, don't have to use a fancy one. And then push still clicks. You don't have to do a cross pattern. These are hub-centric wheels. And there you go.
Tony tackled Casey's Model 3 Performance front brakes. There were some special tools involved, like inverted Torx sockets and a special mini table to hold the caliper. If you would like to take part in future Tesla Owners Club of Michigan events, such as technical sessions, social events, or the Adopt a Supercharger program, then please go to engage.tesla.com and reach out to us. If you enjoyed or got value from this video, why not give it a like and subscribe for more future content. I'll keep the rest of this time lapse running so you can see an overview of the Model 3 Performance brake cleaning service. See you next time.